Okay, fellow babies, welcome back to Pachter Factor on SIFTD.net. I'm your host and the only participant, Michael Pachter. We're going to take some questions today, take a question today, and we're going to keep doing this for a while. So keep them coming in. You can submit them on Twitter to me at Michael Pachter, or you can submit them to @SIFTD Games, and we're on SIFTD.net. If you're watching on SIFTD.net because you're a Patreon patron, thank you so much for your patronage. If you're watching on Twitch as a Twitch Prime member, that's free and you're getting it on time. If you're watching it on YouTube a week late, then that's because you're not paying anything. But obviously you can subscribe on YouTube, you can subscribe through Patreon, or you can pay nothing and link your Amazon Prime account to your Twitch Prime account. So try to do one of those things if you can afford it, or if your Prime member is free, and you'll get this content pretty soon thereafter. I will get to today's question, but first I wanted to do a rest in peace for Howard Hessman. Look him up, Hesseman. Howard played Dr. Johnny Fever on WKRP in Cincinnati, and I think that show probably ended in 81 or 2, but it was a 70s show. It is available. You can find it anywhere. It's really great. But he was the midnight to dawn disc jockey at WKRP, and he called his listeners fellow babies. I stole that from him. You are my fellow babies, and I hope my fellow baby Howard Hessman rests in peace. He died at 81, which is, if you get to be my age, is so young. You just can't believe anybody dies at 81. And anyway, he was a good man. He was a funny dude. WKRP is worth checking out, so please do. We got a lot of questions on this, so we're kind of consolidating them into one. Now that the dust has cleared, what's your take on Microsoft buying Activision Blizzard? Did it overpay? Microsoft just announced that big properties like Call of Duty will remain on PlayStation consoles more than just the next couple of years. Is that smart? Why make this purchase if nothing is going to change other than collecting royalties for sales on PlayStation platforms? Isn't the whole idea to use exclusive games to get people into the Xbox and Game Pass ecosystem? Okay. Prior to Game Pass, so let's just roll back 5 years or more. The only reason that a console manufacturer would purchase a game developer or a publisher is to take those games and make them exclusive on their respective console. So Sony, pretty famously bought Naughty Dog, and they bought Insomniac to put Ratchet and Clank and whatever. Spider-Man is a third-party title, but Insomniac Games and Last of Us and Uncharted, to make sure they owned all that stuff and made it PlayStation exclusive. That was always an impediment to buying a big publisher, and by big I mean a publisher that had a big chunk of their revenue coming from the competitor's console, because it wouldn't make sense to buy Activision if back in 2010, if half of Activision revenues came from Call of Duty, and 60% of that, so 60% half, 30% of Activision revenues came from PlayStation. That was probably about the split way back when. If you were Microsoft and you bought Activision in 2010, you would do it only to make Call of Duty exclusive on Xbox, and you would have cut your revenue by roughly 30%. And if you look at Activision's profits, they make 35% profit on their revenue. But if you wipe out 30% of revenue and their costs are the same, they still have to produce the games and market them, they would have made no money. So Microsoft couldn't afford to buy Activision back in the day, because the motive, the strategy for buying them would have been back in 2010, make the games exclusive on Xbox. What happened since? Since 2010, Microsoft launched Game Pass, which I think I've talked about before, and I've consistently thought it was a dumb idea until now. I always thought Microsoft would never get enough content to make the Game Pass subscription worthwhile. And I'm saying this prior to purchasing Bethesda, prior to purchasing Obsidian, all the In Exile. They bought, tons and tons of studios. I forgot the name of the guys who make Hellblade, but they bought all these studios. So if you roll back maybe 2017, before they bought all these studios, I was like, what do they make? They make 3 games you want to play. They make Forza, Halo, Gears of War. We can argue about whether you want to play Fable or whether you want to play Age of Empires, but PC game. But they make 3 games. How many Halo players play Gears? Probably a lot, right? How many of those guys play Forza? Probably some. But are you going to pay $10 a month, and I'll get to where that comes from, $10 a month in perpetuity to play Halo that comes out every 5 years, to play Gears that comes out every 3 to 5 years, to play Forza that comes out every 3 to 5 years? You're going to get, over a 3-year period, you're going to pay $10 a month, you're going to pay $360 to get 3 games. Doesn't add up. $180 to buy 3 games, $360 to get them on Game Pass. So then the only way Game Pass made sense, when that was all Microsoft had to offer, was if they could attract enough players because of catalog. And so they did a bunch of clever things, like they signed up EA. They got 1-year-old and older EA titles. So I believe you can play Dead Space, and you can play last year's FIFA on Game Pass. And they started to shore it up, and that was 2018 or so. Then they went on a studio acquisition binge, and they bought all these other guys. But again, they bought 6 or 7 or 8 small studios, and a couple have really good games. And it started to look a little better. Then they bought Bethesda, and that's when I became a believer. I was like, wow, they have a lot of content now. Now Bethesda's not prolific. We've been waiting for Elder Scrolls 6 for about 10 years. The Elder Scrolls 5, I think, came out in 2010, and here it is 2022, and Pete Hines will tell you Elder Scrolls 6 is just starting development. It's coming by 2030. But Bethesda has Doom, and they have Quake, and they have a bunch of Fallout, and they have Wolfenstein, they have Dishonored. I mean, they have all sorts of content. So that started to get me excited about Game Pass. And what do you know? Next thing you know, Microsoft has 25 million Game Pass subscribers. So now when they buy Activision, they don't have to take the games that Activision makes and turn them into Xbox exclusives. Instead, they buy Activision, they keep everything as is. Everything will publish wherever it publishes. Mobile will be on mobile still. Free-to-play, Call of Duty Warzone will still be free-to-play. Hearthstone, Heroes of the Storm will be free-to-play. Console games, Overwatch, Call of Duty will continue to be offered on PlayStation and Xbox. And games like World of Warcraft will continue to be subscription direct. But you can take all of that and put it on Game Pass. And in particular, I actually think World of Warcraft is pretty compelling, because World of Warcraft's been around since 2004. It's peaked, I think, at maybe 12 million subscribers. Currently, probably about 6. They don't disclose any longer. I would expect that about a month after it appears on Game Pass, it'll have 20 million more players. I mean, if I was a Game Pass subscriber, I'd sure as hell start playing it again, because why not? It's free. You've already paid for it. So what they're going to do is they're going to do the same thing with Call of Duty and Overwatch and Diablo and everything else that they do with Halo. And those games are going to appear day and date on Game Pass for free. So they're not going to have any Xbox revenues, but they don't care, because the Xbox revenues would have gone to them anyway. But suddenly Game Pass looks a lot better. They're still going to be on PlayStation. So if you're a PlayStation owner or you're a prospective PlayStation owner, you can still play Call of Duty and you can still play Overwatch, and you're fine. And they'll get that revenue. But they're hopeful that if you're just like having a kid today, baby being born, that by the time that kid is old enough to have, a new console, you're either going to buy him an Xbox or you're just going to buy him a Game Pass subscription, and you're never going to buy a PlayStation. So let's say you have 7 or 8-year-old kids and Christmas is next year, and they're going to, they want a PlayStation. Well, you might talk them into getting an Xbox, because Call of Duty is free on Game Pass and you don't have to pay for it. So I think that Microsoft got enough content that they're going to hurt Sony anyway. So the better question is this deal going to go through? And if you look at Activision's stock, It's trading at around 81 or so. It was trading at about 67 before the deal was announced, and the deal was announced for 95. So, not a coincidence, 81 is the midpoint between 67 and 95, exactly dead center midpoint. That tells you that the people who assess the risk of a deal being challenged and going through have placed a 50-50 probability on Activision actually being acquired by Microsoft. I don't share that view. I am a lawyer, am educated, and I understand the games business. All of these investors cumulatively have tens of billions of dollars more than I do, and they've invested it on this bet. But my view is that the government will step in and say to Microsoft, we're concerned that you're going to pull these games off of PlayStation, and that's not fair to Sony. And that's not fair to Sony people who have purchased Sony PlayStations in the past, because you're making their PlayStation worth less by taking content that has been on there for 18 consecutive years and not making it available anymore. And therefore, we're only going to approve the deal if you commit that you will continue to publish Activision's prior games in the future on PlayStation. So what Microsoft's doing through the tweet and through the blog posts that you mentioned in the question, they're just preempting the government, telling them they have to do it by saying, yeah, we were going to do that anyway. They know, just like I do, that the government's going to require them to do it. So if they're going to be required to continue to publish on PlayStation, then they might as well acknowledge that up front, so when the government comes in and says we require it, Microsoft's going to say, yep, we've always said that. Nobody will be upset. None of the shareholders at Microsoft will be upset. Now, just to think about why the government gets involved in this stuff in the first place, there are three laws: the Clayton Antitrust Act, the Sherman Antitrust Act, and the Securities Act of 1933 and 34 that deal with antitrust. And the definition of antitrust is that the government should scrutinize any combination of companies that are formed in an anti-competitive manner. So let's just think about what could have happened. Microsoft buys Activision and says nothing Activision publishes will ever be on PlayStation again. If you want to play it, you have to buy an Xbox. And oh, by the way, we're raising the price of the Xbox to $1,000. They could do that. And they could say, the games will be free, but an Xbox is $1,000. Or if you want to play any Activision games, you join Game Pass. You don't have to even buy an Xbox. They could do anything like that that would hurt Sony badly, benefit Microsoft immensely, and the government doesn't want to see consumers gouged. So my expectation is, and please bookmark this comment and write it down and come back and tell me I was right when I'm proven right. Microsoft's going to receive a consent decree from the FTC, Federal Trade Commission. Consent decree means that the Federal Trade Commission consents to the acquisition. And the decree is going to say, subject to the following conditions: no price increase to Xbox for 10 years, no price increase to Game Pass for 5, and any game in the Microsoft portfolio that has historically been published on PlayStation must be offered on PlayStation for future iterations. Now that last part's important. That's not just Activision. They've already been approved for Bethesda, and nobody asked the question, what about the next Fallout? What about the next Elder Scrolls? No one questioned that. But my guess is Microsoft planned never to put those games on PlayStation. The government probably can require them to going forward. And for those of you who are, saying, what about Starfield? That's Xbox exclusive. Never been on PlayStation before. It's a brand new IP. So, new IP that's never been published before, and I'm not talking about Diablo 4, that's old IP. That's a sequel. But new IP that's never been published before, you can put it as an exclusive all you want. But I would bet that next Doom, next Quake, next Wolfenstein, next Dishonored, next Elder Scrolls, next Call of Duty, next Overwatch will be required by the FTC to be on PlayStation. The good news for Microsoft fans is all those things will be on Game Pass. And let's take it a step further. Imagine if you are watching this, and I'm gonna just assume that your average age watching this, 25. So you're a 25-year-old. Imagine that your parents actually complied with the ESRB ratings on the games, and they didn't allow you to play Call of Duty till you were 17. So how many Call of Duty games have you played? Answer: 8. You were able to play all the games from 2012 until 2014 to 2022, 2013 to 2021. But what about the first 10? Did you play those? Only if they were offered remastered. If I'm Microsoft, within a year of this deal closing, every Call of Duty 2003 through 2021 shows up on Game Pass. Every map ever shows up on Game Pass. And if they're really smart, they'll probably let you take skins from game to game to game, because who gives a shit? Like, they'll be able to figure out how to do that. They'll definitely let you take your wallet from game to game to game. And if you like Call of Duty, imagine when you start playing Call of Duty Modern Warfare 1. It's really fun. And again, I think that that's a gigantic competitive advantage for Game Pass. And Game Pass is suddenly going to get Skylanders. They're going to get Guitar Hero. Again, not that you're actually going to want to play those games in Guitar Hero you need equipment, but why not? They have all that IP. They're going to have Spider-Man, back from 2002. They're going to have Tony Hawk, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Why not? So Game Pass just got a lot more valuable. And a lot of people say, well, why Activision? Why not EA or Take-Two or Ubisoft? Call of Duty comes out every year, so does FIFA. Do you want to play FIFA 16? Do you want to play Madden 09? No. Same game, all old players. You don't know who they are, you don't care. So the recurring sports franchises don't make a lot of sense. Why not Take-Two? Because how many Rockstar games have been published in the last 10 years? Well, answer: Max Payne in 2012, Grand Theft Auto in 2013, Red Dead Redemption in 2018. 3 games. So you're not getting a big library. Now, if you go back 10 years before that, 10 more Rockstar games. But they just haven't been making games the way they used to. Where Activision, I know, has 18 Call of Duty games. And obviously lots and lots of other stuff. So I think this deal goes through. I think Microsoft is doing it to shore up Game Pass. And Microsoft's core strategy as a corporation is to get us away from getting a new PC and buying Windows to subscribing to Windows 365, Office 365, and paying them $100 a year in perpetuity. And all Microsoft wants is 1 billion people on the planet paying them $100 a year. If they have 1 billion people paying them $100 a year, that's $100 billion of royalty revenue with very low cost to support it. And that's that model. So I actually think that Microsoft probably has enough with Activision. I think the deal goes through. I think the fascinating part is that Activision gets Microsoft into mobile, and they weren't there before. So games like Hexic might actually be better if somebody figured out a way to monetize them via mobile. Games like Gears, especially games like Gears Tactics, that would work on mobile. There's stuff you can do that would work on mobile. I think you could take games like Fable and make it mobile. I think you could take games like Halo and do the same thing you did with Call of Duty Warzone and put them as a free-to-play without a paywall. So I think that Activision's creative talent is going to add a lot to Microsoft. And, put all that together with the Bethesda guys and with all the other acquisitions in the existing Microsoft studios, Microsoft's a powerhouse. The price is $70 billion. Activision makes about, $3 billion roughly. So yeah, they're paying 25 times earnings or something. That's a pretty low return. But if they can keep that $3 billion of profit and they can expand Game Pass, and let's just say that within the next 5 years Game Pass grows by 10 million customers paying $10 a month, right? Then you're looking at $1.2 billion a year of incremental revenue to Microsoft at very low cost. because they've already paid for all the servers. They have Azure, so they own the cloud. They already have essentially bought all the content. It's not like they need additional content to get 10 million more subscribers. So if you think of that coming through at, let's just say, 2/3 profit, which is probably right, then the $3 billion starts to look like $3.8 billion a year. It's not quite as expensive. If you take a couple of Microsoft titles and make them mobile, it looks like $4 billion, $4.5 billion. So I'd say not. If you think Activision was going to grow, and I did, Activision shares were over 100 back in October. So Activision traded at 104 in October. Microsoft's buying it for 95. So did they overpay? Well, why were investors paying 104 in October? Because they think this metaverse thing might happen, and when it happens, then people with content are going to dominate. I think that too. And so I don't know how you put a value on that. Satya Nadella talked about the metaverse, and he clearly has no idea what it is. But unfortunately, he doesn't have to worry about it. Phil Spencer does, and Phil's really smart. So my bias is going to work, and they didn't overpay. Was it a fair price? Yeah, I think it was. Did they overpay? Probably not. Was it a bargain? Probably not. But that's what it took. So, and I didn't mention all the Bobby Kotick, sexual harassment, all that stuff. Bobby was under fire. This is a graceful way out. Sells his company at a high price, gets a big payday for himself. My guess is he's not done. He's 57, 58. He'll be on to something else. I already let him know that if he starts a new venture, I want to work for him. So we'll keep you posted. Thanks for joining us on Pachter Factor. I gave you a long answer. Hope to see you next time. But between now and the next Pachter Factor, sign up, on Patreon as a patron, or link your Twitch Prime account to your Amazon Prime account, please. That's free. Or subscribe to us on YouTube, or none of the above. Get this stuff a week late. Follow me on Twitter at Michael Pachter. I'll see you next time.